Hello, this is Dave from cheapbooks.com. I'm playing World of Tanks. I'm going to look at these campaign missions. The first one is called Operation Stug 4, and I'm going to show you all the campaigns that I did and how I completed them. So, first of all, there is a video that I've already made about the light tanks and how I completed the light tanks. So we've also got the medium tanks, the heavy tanks, the tank destroyers, and the SPGs. I'm going to go through it real quick. Okay, so light tank, you got to win the battle. Reconnaissance, spot 2 enemy vehicles. That obviously means just drive like crazy around the map. You're going to spot 2 enemy vehicles. You'd have to do it before your allies do. Cause damage to 3 vehicles by shooting them while you're on the move or ramming them. So what you do obviously is, and I'm sure you'll be able to do this, you either ram 3 enemy tanks. You only have to cause damage. You don't have to destroy them. So 3 different enemy tanks, you're either going to ram them or shoot at them while you are moving. Destroying the track requires aiming your gun at the track. Usually if you aim right here, either on the left track or the right track, you'll destroy it. Or if you aim at these circles, the first circle and the last circle, the wheels, you should be able to also destroy the track. Spot an enemy vehicle, assist your allies in destroying it. So for that you want to do something like you want to spot some tanks and hide. Either hide in a bush or behind a hill or behind a building, and let your allies destroy it. So your allies actually have to destroy the vehicle that you spotted. Spot 2 enemy vehicles before an enemy spots you. Okay, so for that you either have to have a longer view range and better camouflage in them, or you hide in a bush. And once you see the 2 enemy vehicles, it has to be before they spot you. You should be fine. Spot an enemy SPG, cause damage or critical hit to it. If you want to cause a critical hit and make it guaranteed, you use the high explosive round. It's almost always guaranteed to make a critical hit. Spot an enemy SPG means you're going to have to go to the other side of the map. You either wait until the game's near the end. For example, let's say there's going to be 15 enemy tanks. Once it gets down to 7, and let's say there's 3 enemy SPGs, that means there's only 4 enemy tanks. And those 4 enemy tanks can't cover the whole map. So once you see something like that, you just head for those SPGs. Or you could follow one of the routes that I use, and you can find the SPGs immediately, although there is a little bit of risk. Win the battle by capturing the enemy base. Usually has to be done at the end of the game. My recommendation, if you're really not a good player and you're really just starting out and you really just want to complete it, then hide somewhere until the end of the game and stay safe when there's fewer tanks in the game, and then go and capture the enemy base. I didn't have to. I just happened to be on a team where we capped the enemy. It happens occasionally, and I succeeded at that. So for me, it just came naturally in one of the games that we won. Enable your allies to cause damage to 2 enemy vehicles by spotting them or destroying their tracks. So that basically means hide in a bush somewhere, or use the spotting technique behind a hill, peeking over the top of a hill and hiding. Enable your allies to cause damage to 2 enemy vehicles means that you're going to spot those tanks, and your allies are going to have to cause damage either through the SPGs or however they do it to those 2 vehicles, but they don't have to destroy it. The other thing you could do is hit the track so that the enemy can't move. The Ghost. Spot enemy vehicles. Enable your allies to cause 1,000 hit points of damage to vehicles spotted by you. Again, this is something where you're probably going to have to be in a bush hiding somewhere, or you're going to have to have a really long recon range, and because you have to remain unspotted. So I would recommend hiding in a bush. You can watch videos that I've made about spotting to see how it's done. Join a platoon of 1 or 2 SPGs and have 1,500 hit points of damage to vehicles spotted by you. you only need to have one light tank. So ideally you want a platoon with 2 SPGs. They probably have to be 2 tiers higher than you. So if you're a tier 4 light tank, you're going to want 2 tier 6 SPGs. Now, because it's 1,500 hit points of damage, you want to be in the highest tier tank you can get. So ideally, you want to be tier 8, 9, or tier 8 light tank like the AMX 1390, because that would mean you only have to kill 1 tank. If you're in a low tier, you might have to kill 3 tanks. So you might have an easier job doing damage. Anytime it says how much damage you want to do, being in a higher tier tank has an advantage. And that's probably how I did it. Join a platoon and spot vehicles so that your allies cause 2,000 of damage. Again, you want to be in a high tier tank. High tier games. For example, my STI has 1,900 hit points. That's a tier 9 tank. So if you spot an STI and your allies destroy it, that's 1,900 hit points. You're 95% of the way there. Destroy enemy vehicle same tier. This is what I'm working on right now. Finish the battle as a top player by experience earned. I'll definitely do that. Assist your allies in causing 4,000 of damage by spotting or destroying enemy tracks. Now, this can be done, but it can't be done on every map. So, on a map like Sand River, where there's wide open spaces and lots of bushes, you go and you find a bush that's somewhat near the enemy, and you let your allies have their way with them. Or the other option is you have to track vehicles and hope that your SPGs can damage them. But definitely SPGs will make a good difference because they have a range that's greater than your allies. I know I'll be able to complete it because I do spotting runs all the time. The question is, when are you going to get that magic combination of the map that you need to get that type of damage? For example, I've got a video where I did 5,700 spotting damage. I don't think it was a light tank, though. Okay, so that covers the light tanks. Again, I have another video that covers it in a little bit more detail. So let's move on to the medium tanks. Cause damage, be in the top, pretty much cause damage and win the battle. Cause damage by shooting it while you're on the move or ramming it. Self-explanatory. I'm looking for the little tips that will help you get an edge. Cause damage to vehicle to the first 5 minutes of battle. You're going to have to step on the gas. And if you really don't know what to do, just find a tank and ram them. Step on the gas, find a tank and ram them. And keep an eye out for light tanks and medium tanks. They're easier to ram. If you're a medium tank and you go up against a heavy tank, you're not going to cause damage to it. You're going to cause damage to the light tanks, the tank destroyers if you hit them from the side, and the SPG units because they have light armor. So definitely go after those tanks and try and ram them, and they'll have a light tank will be an easier target for you to go up against. So follow them if you see them on the map. Destroy the track and cause damage to the vehicle before the track is repaired. I don't know how I do this, but it's possible that your allies can help you with this. So you're going to have to learn how to destroy tracks. Again, that means hitting it right on the tread or hitting it on those wheels, the first wheel and the last wheel. The other wheels I don't think destroys the track, but you never know. Sometimes you can hit a track on the side and it will destroy the track. You can try the high explosive rounds. You should learn how to switch between regular and high explosive rounds. For me, I just hit the number 3 on the keyboard to get high explosive and 1 to do regular rounds. High explosive rounds on most tanks will damage everything on the outside of the tank. So it'll damage things such as the headlights, the viewports, and things like that very easily. Destroy an enemy light tank by shooting or ramming it. So what you do is when you start the game, a medium tank has 2 stripes. A light tank has a diamond. So what you're going to do is when you start the game, you're going to keep your eye on that map, and you're going to look for the diamonds on your little mini-map. And whenever you see a diamond, you're going to go after that tank. And those are going to be light tanks, and you shoot them or ram them until you destroy it. Rapid fire cause damage to enemy vehicles of 3 different types. That means you have to cause damage to a light tank, a medium tank, or a heavy tank. 3 different types in terms of their heaviness. If you want to guarantee that you cause damage, because sometimes your bullets will bounce, use high explosive rounds. High explosive rounds will almost never bounce. You're like 99% guaranteed to cause damage, even if you're in a low tier tank going up against a high tier tank, because they're explosives. And they only cause a little bit of damage, but they do cause damage. So if you're having trouble causing damage to lots of different vehicles, get the high explosive rounds. Now, if you really want to win it, what you're going to do is you're going to keep an eye on what type of tanks. You can say, okay, I'm going to go after a light, a medium, and a heavy. And when you hit one, you move on to the next tank. That's the way to do it if you're really stuck and you can't. I just played a normal game. But if you're really stuck at the high explosive rounds, and when you hit one of the types, move on to the next one. And you'll see in yellow, it'll say negative and then the amount of damage you did. Destroy an enemy SPG, that's self-explanatory. The best technique if you have trouble doing this is when you get close to it, you fire your gun and then you ram it. So you have to have speed. When you see the enemy SPG, you aim your tank to drive right at it. You fire your gun and you keep on firing. You lock on with your aimer, the reticule. You aim it and you lock it on, and you hold that button down. So as soon as it reloads, it keeps on firing, and you ram that tank. Some SPGs you can use high explosive rounds, and you'll do more damage, because if they have an open top, you can do more damage with explosive rounds. Destroy 2 enemy medium tanks. When the game starts, you're going to look on your mini-map, and you're going to look for those 2 stripes on that map, and you're going to have to chase those tanks down. So I would recommend you use a fast tank with a good gun. For example, a T-69. T-69 has an autoloader. I can have 4 shots at enemy tanks. Increases the chance that I will kill him. If it were my T-69 against a similar tank, like for example this Panther, he gets to shoot at me once, I get to shoot at him 4 times. Actually, if his reload time is relatively fast, he's going to hit me 2 or 3 times. But the autoloader increases the chance that you can do things such as destroying enemy tanks or hitting enemy tanks. For example, rapid fire, cause damage to enemy vehicles of 3 different types. Use an autoloader. Put high explosive rounds into it, and then aim at 3 different tanks and nail 3 of them in a row. The same is true with this other one, destroy 2 enemy tanks. It's going to be a little bit more work, but find your best tank, the one that you have the most kills with, and use that in the game. And use premium rounds if you have to. If you have to, use premium rounds, which is right here. I have mine always mapped to the number 2 on my keyboard. Or just go into the game with only premium rounds. Play 1 game with the premium rounds. Destroy your 2 enemy tanks. You'll probably get 25% more penetrations than if you don't. Okay, set an enemy vehicle on fire. The trick to this is to hit the enemy vehicle in the engine, which is in the behind. So for this tank, you're going to hit it right in the back, and you're going to do the same with almost every tank. You're going to see people that are shooting tanks in the back, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to set the tank on fire. You have to hit the engine. Sometimes you can hit it sideways also. The engine could be high or it could be low. Obviously, if you see the vents over here, there's a good chance that the engine is going to be in the higher area. If you don't know what to do, hit high and hit low. And it doesn't say that you have to shoot it. You could probably ram it also. But the other thing you could do, if you're failing to do it, try using premium rounds, the gold rounds, and try using high explosive rounds. But like I said, the key is to nail it right in the back over here. I had an AMX M445. You'll hear this story. You can see the videos. 3 games in a row I got set on fire. So it can definitely happen. And also, perhaps, there are tanks that catch on fire more easily than others. Fire at least 6 shots that cause damage to enemy vehicles. Okay. If you don't know what to do, get a gun like the autoloader that shoots rapidly. This can fire, it can hold 4 shells in the magazine. Find a tank with my T20 has rapid reload, couple seconds. My Centurion has like a 3.6 second reload. Find tanks that have a fast reload. And if you want to cause damage, you use high explosive rounds. You get high explosive rounds and you just shoot them at anything. Boom, 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 boom. And with high explosive rounds, you're guaranteed to do damage, even though it might only be a little bit of damage. Ram them. Destroy an enemy vehicle by ramming. You're going to have to, you're a medium tank, you're going to have to go after the light tanks, the SPGs, and the tank destroyers. I didn't mention this before, but you will apply it where necessary. At the beginning of the game, at the top, the enemy team will have a list of their 15 tanks. It will have the 3 stripes for the heavy tanks, 2 stripes for the medium tanks, the diamond for the light tanks, the triangle for the tank destroyers, and the squares for the SPGs. You'll see it right up at the top. So you're going to look at this, ram them, and if you see all 3 stripes up at the top, it's going to be difficult to do with your medium tank, because those will all be heavy tanks. But if you see that there's a lot of triangles and squares and things like that, then you know it's going to be a little bit easier. And obviously, okay, and the trick to destroying it by ramming is to shoot at the tank while you're driving at it really fast, and when it gets low on hit points, instead of using your gun, you ram into it. Now, in order to destroy a tank by ramming, you need a fast tank. A slow tank like a Somua S35 is not going to do it. The SARL 42 will not do it. A T20 is a fast tank. Panther is relatively fast. My Centurion is very fast. Indian Panzer is pretty fast. The T44 and the T34-1 are probably pretty fast. The Pershing over here, not that fast, but it's got great armor on it. If you use this tank and you hit something, you're probably going to cause damage. So find a fast vehicle that has reasonably good armor and go and just start ramming after things. Weaker tanks. Okay, as a platoon, destroy 3 enemy vehicles. The great news about this is you don't have to be the one to destroy the 3 enemy vehicles. You just have to be in the platoon. In fact, it doesn't say who's in the platoon. I did it with 2 SPG units. It was me and 2 SPG units, and they went and they destroyed 3 enemy tanks, and that was it, and I won. As a platoon, cause 3,000 hit points of damage to enemy vehicles. You're gonna, I think you will. Okay, so it doesn't say they have to all be medium tanks. You just have to be in a platoon. 3,000 damage means you want to be in a high tier tank, like a tier 10. Because, for example, a mouse has 3,000 hit points. You only have to destroy 1 tank. Or maybe 2 tanks at the most. Tier 8, 2 tanks. But if you're on tier 4, you might have to destroy 6 tanks. So get 3 people in the platoon if you want to do the best job. 2 people obviously could do it, but get a 3rd person, increase your chances. Get in a high tier game, tier 8, tier 9, tier 10, the highest tier you can get. Tier 8 you should have no problem. There's lots of tier 8 medium tanks. I've got the T30, I got the T44, I got the Indian Panzer, I got the Centurion, I got the T26E4. Those are all tier 8 tanks, including the T69. There's more of them out there. Use a high tier tank, get the most number of people in your platoon as possible, and if you have to, use the gold rounds or the premium rounds because they usually cause more damage. You look over here at your gun specs, right here. Let's pick a different tank. You'll see over here it says average damage 240 and the other one says average damage 150. Make sure you get the one that does more average damage. Find your tanks, go to all your tanks, and see who does the most average damage. This only does 55. You don't want to use that one. Let's check this one out. You got to beat 240. This one does 240. 240 is pretty much the best you're going to get out of a medium tank. You're not going to see medium tanks that do 1,000 or something like that. There might be one out there, but your job is to check. 250, 390. This one has a gun that does 390, which means you're going to have to hit like 9 tanks. You're going to have to hit 9 shots in order to do it with that gun. Now, another trick you can use, if you have trouble, you can go after weak tanks like the SPGs. However, the SPGs tend to have less hit points, but they're easy targets. If it said kill 3 tanks, go kill 3 SPGs. Easy targets, always in the same place. Destroy an enemy tank 1 tier higher than your vehicle. You might want to go in with premium rounds. You might want to do it, pick your favorite tank. Here's another little trick you can use. I'm going to show you all these tanks. This is a tier 8 tank. This is a tier 3. This is a tier 4. You'll notice this one is a tier 4 tank, but you can get a tier 5 gun. This one's a tier 5. Let's check out his guns. They're the same. This one's tier 7. He's got tier 8. This one is a tier 8 tank. This one is a tier 7 tank. Now you'll notice this is the Panther here is a tier 7 tank. But look at that. I got a tier 8 gun on my Panther, which means it's designed for tier 8 tanks. So it's going to have a higher penetration. This is a tier 8 tank. This one is a tier 5. This one's a tier 7. This T-44 is a tier 7 tank, and there is a tier 8 gun available, which is all the way up here at the top. It's going to have better penetration in general. This one is a tier 7 tank. Okay, so I'm going to use the example with this T-44. You got to destroy an enemy heavy tank that is 1 tier higher. So you got the T-44, and you'll notice that there's a tier 8 gun over here. You want to look at where it says average penetration. The 126, the 144, the 175, the 175, the 175. You want to have the higher penetration because the heavy tanks that are 1 tier higher have thicker armor. You can also use the gold rounds. You'd look at the second column, 167, 194, 235, 235, 217. So if you want to penetrate, you get one of these 2 guns that has a high middle number. You got to go through all your medium tanks and look at all your guns and find out which one has the highest number. Or you could get the one that does the most damage. 390 is a lot of damage for this tier of tank. And then, if you're going up against a heavy tank, because having more damage and having more penetration can both help you in destroying an enemy tank. If it says damage, you want the one with the higher penetration. If it says destroy, they can both help. So destroying the heavy tank, the weak part of the heavy tank is always going to be behind. So to destroy it, you have to... what I would do is I would get a T-69, which can hold 4 shells, or any tank that can shoot rapidly. This has a 2-second reload time. You get behind the heavy tank and you nail it again and again and again behind it, and while it's slowly turning that turret around, you're nailing it in the butt. That's the way you want to complete that mission. You can also nail it right here in the back of the head, A lot of tanks have their ammo rack over there, and with one shot you can destroy the tank. Some tanks you can hit the ammo rack right where the star is, and some of them you would be right along the midsection, right underneath the turret and along the side. I'm going to show you an example of an ammo rack. If you look at this tank, and you look, there's a roof on this tank, but if you look through the roof, you're going to see that there's some circles. There's 2 empty spots, one that's filled, an empty one, 2 that are filled, an empty one. That's the ammo rack, and you can see the ones that are filled have ammo in them. And that ammo rack is right here where that star is, the space in the back of the tank. So if you hit that, one shot you can make the whole tank explode. Or the other thing is set the tank on fire. Take shots at the engine, which is also the back, set it on fire, and it can burn to death. That's how you can destroy a heavy tank that is 1 tier higher. If you're having trouble, use high explosive rounds. They're more effective against heavier tanks. Destroy 2 enemy tank destroyers. You're going to look for those little triangles on the map, and you have to hunt them down. When the game begins, you look at the top of the screen, and you count how many triangles there are. Or you could look at the side where it lists all the enemy tanks, and if you only see 1 tank destroyer, you're not going to complete the mission. So don't even try. If you see 2, it's going to be very difficult. But if you see a game with like 7 or 8 tank destroyers, that's the key game that you're going to be able to complete the mission. And you go after the weakest tank destroyers. Now on to the heavy tanks. Destroy an enemy vehicle, that's self-explanatory. Destroy from a distance of 100 meters or less, very common with heavy tanks. Ramming will definitely do it. Destroy 2 enemy vehicles of 2 different types. That means 1 light, 1 heavy, 1 light, 1 medium, etc. If you have trouble doing this, go after the easy tanks, the light tanks and the SPGs. Damage or destroy 1 internal module or knock out a crew member. Use high explosive rounds. You vastly increase the chance you destroy an internal module or knock out a crew member. Also, look at your crew. Look at my gunner over here. What has he got? He's got Deadeye. What does Deadeye do? Increase the chance to cause damage to enemy vehicle modules and crew. Find one of your tanks that has Deadeye as with the gunner, and it will make it. He'll have the best chance of completing this mission, which is HT4. Be among the top 3 players by damage caused. Make sure you got a tank that does a lot of damage. You go over here and you find a gun. These do equal amounts of damage. They both do 240. Of course, these are not medium tanks. But you'll notice the top gun over here does 390 and even 530 with the high explosive rounds. So that's, of course, up against an easy target. So find a tank with a gun that does a lot of damage, and you will have a better chance of being among the top 3 players by damage caused. For example, there is a tank called the KV-2, which is right here. It's got a very special gun on it. I'll move this out of the way. You'll note that there's a gun that does 700 damage on tier 6. It's completely unheard of. Got a long reload time, like 30-second reload time. However, if you're doing heavy tanks and you got a KV-2, you hit 1 tank and you're going to do 700 damage. You have to hit like 2 tanks, and you're likely to come out on top. So you're going to look at your guns in order to do that. Find something that shoots frequently and does a lot of damage. Destroy 2 enemy tanks. That's self-explanatory. When the game begins, you're going to look at the top for the tanks with the 3 stripes. You need to have at least 2. And if there's 2 on the enemy team, it's going to be difficult. If there's 1, it's going to be impossible because you have to destroy 2. You want to see those battles where there's like 8 heavy tanks on the enemy team. That's when you have the opportunity, and you got to hustle and chase them down. Make sure you got the best rounds, the best gun, the best tank, and that you're fast. An AMX 5100 has no problem killing tanks. It's got an autoloader, it's fast, it hustles around the map. Same with the IS-3. IS-3 really moves quickly. It's far more capable than an IS-6. FCM-50T is a fast tank. Gets around the map. When you want to destroy more, you need a fast tank usually so that you can chase after weak enemy targets. When you're looking on your mini-map, you're going to see those 3 stripes, and you turn. Let's say there's a tank to your side with 3 stripes. You're going to turn the map so that he's on your screen, and you look at his health. If he's low on health, you chase after him and you kill him. If he's high on health, you'd be a little bit more cautious. Participate in the successful capture of the enemy base and cause 1,000 hit points of damage. You want to be in a higher tier if you want to cause more damage. You want to be in like STI. Let's look at my STI, which is tier 9. Let's look at his gun. Average, okay, that's penetration. Average damage 440, 390. So in order to cause 1,000 hit points, you got to hit 2 or 3 times. If you do it in a low tier tank, you might have to hit somebody 5 to 7 times. So use the highest tier tank and make sure you win the game and cap the enemy base. And tell your allies, hey, everybody get on the cap. There's a lot of people who will do it. Cause 1,000 hit points to enemy heavy tanks. Again, use a higher tier tank. Use your premium rounds, your gold rounds. Destroy an enemy vehicle by ramming. You want a tank like the FCM-50T. This is a fast tank. This tank hustles across the map. Top speed 51 kilometers. AMX 5100 top speed 51 kilometers. It's a lot easier to destroy an enemy tank by ramming it when you're really fast. IS-6 only 35 kilometers. It's a lot more difficult. Now the other thing you want to do, get a fast tank. You only have to destroy 1 enemy vehicle. It could be any tank. It doesn't have to be a heavy tank. So go after the easy ones, the SPGs, the light tanks, medium tanks, and have a fast tank, and it'll be easier. And try to ram them from the side or behind. Avoid ramming them from the front, and try to go as fast as you can. The ramming damage goes to whoever's going fastest. So if he's standing still, he doesn't get a lot of ramming damage unless he's really strong. Cause 1,000 hit points of damage to enemy vehicles at close range. Use a higher tier tank, like tier 9 and tier 10, that does a lot of damage, and be close to the enemy. I don't know how close you have to be. It says up to the view range. Cause 1,000 hit points by the end of the battle. Don't have any damage and survive. Okay, higher tier tank, but not only that, get something like a spall liner, because you want that extra armor protection and you want the extra protection to the crew. And that's how you do it. You use the spall liner. So getting a spall liner is going to protect internal modules and crew members. Another way to make sure that you do this is make sure you get that large repair kit, and if you have any internal modules that are damaged, make sure you use the repair kit before the game's over to repair those internal modules, and make sure you have the medical kit. Let's see if I got someone who has it. Get a first aid kit. There it is. And if any of your crew members die, use the first aid kit. Not only that, you get an extra 15% protection. So you're going to get the first aid kit for the extra protection for your crew. You're going to get the large first aid kit in case you have any damaged modules. Plus it increases the repair. You're going to get that spall liner. And then you should have an easier time. And don't use a tank that has cheesy armor. You know, you can look at your tanks, like the T-32. Look at this hull, and you can see the armor is 298 for a tier 8, and this one is 279. So the T-32 has a better armor in the front, and they're both the same tier. If you compare it to this one, let's see if he beats 298. No, his armor is only 120. He's got really low armor. So he's more likely to have damage in the game. So check the armor on your tanks for that tier that you're going to play, and because obviously the higher tier tanks are going to have the most armor. So check a tier and find which tank. In my tier 8, the strongest one so far is the T-32. Get something that has strong armor when you go into that battle. Get that medical kit, get the large repair kit, and if you can afford it, get the spall liner. I have the feeling that you will be able to complete that mission and cause 1,000 hit points of damage, which means you're going to need a higher tier tank. Damage blocked by armor must equal or exceed the HP of your vehicle. Cause at least 1,000 hit points of damage. Damage blocked by armor, you want a tank that has solid armor on the front for its tier. This has a tier 9 turret, which means that this is going to have the damage blocked by armor means that they're not able to penetrate you. This is the tank that's going to do it. They're going to nail it again and again and again, but because you have better armor, they won't be able to penetrate it. Obviously, you're also more likely to do it if you're going up against lower tier tanks. So if you see you're in a tier 8 tank and you're going up against tier 9 and tier 10, the advantage is they're going to be throwing shots at you that have more value to them, but they can penetrate. But if you go at a lower tier, they're going to have more trouble penetrating, but they have to throw more shots at you to get the damage. If you see you're in a low tier game, be very aggressive. Go after low tier tanks. Don't worry too much if they hit you, especially if their shots bounce. Let them hit you a couple times, and your damage blocked by armor will increase if they hit you and it doesn't penetrate. So make sure you got strong armor in whatever you tank you take out for that game. Check it all the armor for your tier. Let's look at my STI. Actually, the IS-3 I think has strong armor. I'm going to show you an example. His armor here says 249, 172. This one says 150, 150. So it's almost half the IS-3, and the tanks are very similar. Similar design. The IS-3 has better gun, better armor, better speed. But otherwise, the tanks are very similar. I mean, you could just look at them right here, see how similar they are. That's the IS-6. That's the IS-3. They play the same. You feel like it's the same tank when you're driving it. You know, they're both the same tier. Don't go out with the IS-6. It's going to be more difficult. Go out with the IS-3. Find your best tank for the tier. Join a platoon of heavy tanks. Destroy an enemy vehicle in the first 5 minutes. Get as many people in your platoon as possible with heavy tanks. All the same tier. Make sure you got good guns, premium ammo. You want to have, like I said, that gunner. The gunner that has Deadeye, because it increases the chance to cause damage. And you want to probably have a fast tank, like the IS-3 is relatively fast. AMX 5100 is fast. The other option, okay, so you have to destroy the vehicle. Gang up on a vehicle. Have all 3 people in your platoon gang up on a tank. The other thing you can do is go after SPG units. They're very easy to destroy. It says join the battle as a platoon of heavy tanks. You can play the game as a platoon by yourself. I don't know if it'll allow you to complete the mission, but I'm going to give it a shot, and if it works, I will report it to you and let you know. Join the battle, part of a platoon. Destroy 3 enemy vehicles of 2 different types. Having the autoloaders, usually gives you an advantage at the end of the game when everyone has low hit points, and you can go and you can kill a lot of tanks that have very low hit points. So that's one of the things you might want to consider. Get a fast tank. Fast tank can hustle around the map to destroy those enemy tanks. But as a platoon, if you have trouble completing it, find somebody who's really good with heavy tanks. Go after the easy ones. Go after the SPG and the light tanks and the tank destroyers. Some of the tank destroyers are difficult. And because it says destroy, you don't have to use the high tier tanks. You can use any tier you want. Damage caused, damage received, damage blocked by armor must total 8,000 hit points. You're probably going to have to use one of your highest tier tanks. I haven't completed this yet in about, let's say, 50 games. However, I've gotten over 5,000 hit points. I haven't gotten to 8,000 yet. I have the feeling it's going to be the STI that's going to do it. To do this, I'm going to have to destroy, let's say, 4 tanks. My STI has 1,900 hit points, which you deduct from the 8,000. So you really only need 6,100. If they destroy your tank, that 1,900 points will be damage received. If it were spotting, if spotting damage assisted were included, I would easily do 8,000. But it's not. So you get it down to that 6,100. You kill as many tanks as you can. You're probably going to need 15 to 20 penetrations with your premium gold rounds. And you want strong armor. And you might... I can't advise you. I haven't completed it yet, but, you know, good luck. Let's get into tank destroyers. Be among the top 7 players. Destroy one internal module. Use a gunner. Find a tank destroyer that has that gunner with Deadeye. You'll notice I have it first on almost every one of my... Well, okay, camouflage, if they only have 1 skill. But once they get to 2, I've got Deadeye and camouflage. This one has Deadeye, camouflage. This one has Deadeye, camouflage. Deadeye increases the chance you do damage. I want it with all my gunners. The other thing you can do is use high explosive rounds and go after tanks like this, the T-25, that has that gap at the top. You know, those are the tanks, the high explosive rounds are more likely to injure the crew. And obviously try to hit them from above. Destroy 2 enemy vehicles, win the battle. Make sure you have a tank that either has rapid fire, is fast, has good gun and good ammo. You know, check your guns and your ammo and everything to see which one is the best killing machine. The other thing you could do is go to your service record, and look up your vehicles, and look where it says enemy vehicles destroyed. This says 0.61, right? My TOG says 0.73. FCM 50T 0.39. T34 says 0.45. Low says 0.54. If you're going to be on a mission to destroy enemy vehicles, find the tank that has the highest number over here. That's the one that you've been the most successful at destroying enemy vehicles. But you got to remain unspotted is one of the things. I'm sure you'll be able to do it. Look for the weaker vehicles and shoot at the ones that have the lowest number of hit points. Cause damage to an enemy vehicle from a distance of 300 meters or more. You're going to have to hide. You want a tank that can aim very quickly. So you go to your garage, you look at your tank destroyers. German tanks tend to aim very quickly, like this Jag Tiger. You're going to look at the gun, and you'll see it says aiming time 2 seconds. Let's see what the French tank is. It says 2.3. This one is 2.3. This one is 1.7. This one has a faster aiming time. That means it's going to be better long range. Long range requires aiming. So you're more likely to cause damage from 300 meters or more with a vehicle that aims faster. Use high explosive rounds and you're almost guaranteed to cause damage, even though it will be a small amount. The high explosive rounds are these right over here. I have mine mapped to the number 3 on my keyboard. I just hit the number 3 to switch for the next load, and I hit it twice to load it up immediately. Okay, this one caused damage 250 or more. Enemy must be on the move. Same thing. Get a tank that has a fast aiming time. If you want to guarantee damage, it doesn't say how much damage, use high explosive rounds. Destroy an enemy vehicle having received no prior damage. You should be able to do that. It's self-explanatory. Stay away from the enemy. Go after easy targets. Cause twice as much damage than the hit points of your vehicle. You want a gun that does a lot of damage. So you look at your guns. You'll note that the average damage is the same no matter which gun it is. This one's going to be a different story. Look at that. They got a gun here that does 300. And they got the 110 and the 110. This one does 240 and this one does 240. Get the one that does the most damage. Look up the hit points to your vehicle. This one has 610. So a gun that does 300 damage, mine does 300. My tank has 610. The best gun does 300. That means to do twice as much damage, I have to hit 4 tanks on average. And I should cause twice as much damage to any vehicles as the hit points of your vehicles. You want to use premium rounds. Almost always the premium rounds cause more damage and have higher penetration, but they don't always. Find a tank. The other trick you do is you find a tank that has the lowest number of hit points. So let's look at my tank destroyers. He's got 610. This next one has 580. He's got fewer hit points. He's in the same tier. Let's look at this one. He's got 850, and he's got 830. They're in the same tier. This one has 1300. He's got a lot more hit points. You got a lot more damage to do. So, for example, with this tier 6, you've got this SU-100 that has less hit points. That means that causing twice as much damage means than the hit points of your vehicle means causing less damage. That's one of the tricks that you can use. And you'll note that he's probably got guns that do the same amount of damage, if not more. So this tank actually, if you look at it, his does 300 damage maximum with a regular gun. His 390. It's 25. That's 30% more. They're the same tier. Plus, he has less hit points. So you increase the chance that you're going to complete that mission with this SU-100 as compared to its hit points and the gun that it has. So that's one of the tricks that I used when I was working on these missions. Next one, score 3 hits in a row. You want to use something that has a fast reload time. Like the E-25 has a very fast reload time. It's like 3 seconds. I killed 5 tanks in 60 seconds with this tank. There's a video of it on my YouTube channel. Score 3 hits in a row. It doesn't say penetrations, it just says hits. So just score 3 hits in a row. So you can hit a tank, a heavy tank like a mouse. You just got to hit it. It doesn't say penetrations. You want to be close to the enemy. You want a high velocity round. I think the high explosive rounds are low velocity, which means they're less likely to hit. You see them lob over. I don't know where to find the velocity of the round. However, what I do know is that If it's a smaller gauge, like 85 millimeter compared to 122, it's probably going to be higher velocity. I don't know that for a fact. Cause at least 1,000 hit points to enemy vehicles and remain unspotted. Get the tank that's the highest tier. It will probably cause more hit points of damage. It'll probably have a more powerful gun. This one has, they all have the same gun. It's kind of low. It's 240. This one has one that does 390. You know, play in the tank that does more damage. You're trying to cause the most amount of hit points. Get the gun that does the most damage. And remain unspotted. Remain unspotted means have a camouflage net. Have the exterior painted. You go over here where it says exterior, and you make sure you get, if you have to, only for 7 days. Because I'm a higher tier, I got permanently, because it could take me months to finish this. Make sure you pay. It's not always expensive. 15,000 silver. If you don't want to pay for all three, just get the summer map, because you're more likely to play summer maps. That will help you remain unspotted. The other thing, find a crew that has 100% skill for camouflage. You'll see that this one, a lot of the guys are in the 90% range for camouflage, which means he's harder to spot. Join a platoon of tank destroyers, destroy 3 enemy vehicles. Make sure your platoon has as many tank destroyers as possible, ideally 3, and find some guys that are really good. Make sure you're all the same tier. Make sure you've got fast tank destroyers, good penetration, and guns that do good damage. You only have to destroy, which means get that last shot in. Destroy an enemy heavy tank. Cause at least 1,000 hit points of damage. You want to use your high tier guns that cause more damage, and it increases the chance you're going to get that 1,000 hit points of damage. And find a gun that has the best penetration. If you have to, use your premium rounds. Or this 1,000 hit points doesn't have to be on the heavy tank. So you destroy the heavy tank and then go after easy targets to get the 1,000 hit points of damage. Finish the battle as a top player by damage caused. Make sure you got a good gun. It's all going to be about the good gun. And if you have trouble getting up to 1,000, move up into a higher tier. Or get something like this SU-100. It's a lower tier. You're going to be in lower tier games, but it has the gun that does 390 damage. Tier 6, 390 damage. It's more than the Tier 8 tanks. Big Hunt. Platoon of tank destroyers, and your platoon has to cause 30% of the total damage of enemy vehicles. Yeah, make sure you could do it any tier. Make sure you have good guns that cause a lot of damage, such as that SU-100. Get 3 SU-100s. Maybe that will help you. Also, try to have gunners that have Deadeye to increase the chance to cause damage to enemy tanks. I'm pretty sure that internal modules on enemy tanks have hit points. It's something that I read somewhere. So that's one of the little edges you can use. Make sure you got good platoon mates. Find other people that are doing missions. Cause 4,000 of damage to enemy vehicles. Use your most powerful, most damaging gun. Look at the higher tier tanks. Look at those guns. Okay, down to the SPGs. Howitzer strike. Oh, by the way, you'll see something in the reward section. It says reward 4, and then it has this weird thing, and it doesn't say what it is. That thing is a commendation. You get 4 commendations. I don't really know what the commendation is. It's like getting a medal or a mark or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Howitzer strike. This is for SPGs. 1,000 hit points of damage, you want to get the higher tier SPG units and go after the easier targets. Usually the easiest target is another SPG unit, but they tend to have lower hit points. Cause 500 to enemy vehicles and remain unspotted. That should be pretty easy. That happens often. Score 3 hits that cause damage. Get a gunner that has Deadeye. Increases the chance you cause damage. Use high explosive rounds. High explosive rounds increase the chance you cause damage. Doesn't matter what tier you play. Use a gun that is more accurate. I'm going to load up my SPGs. Right now I only have one. I used to have more than one. My gunner has 110%, which means he is very accurate. You don't want to go out with a gunner at 50% because he's going to have trouble getting 3 hits. A gunner at 50% of training level is going to keep on missing. So if you're like, well, I don't want to pay for all these crew, you don't have to pay for all of them. Just pay for your gunner. Get your gunner up to 110%. I'm going to show you an example. You'll notice that this driver is at 86 and the commander is at 78. I used to have a tank, I must have sold it, where I paid for the gunner to be at 100% while everyone else was at like 50% because I wanted that accuracy. So we're also going to go back to the SPG and you're going to look at your gun and you'll see that the gun has a 1.3 aiming time. This one has 1.7. This one is 2.1. This one is 1.9. And this one is 2.3. You want the one that has the lowest aiming time, 1.3. The lowest aiming time will help you score 3 hits. The amount of damage doesn't matter. You want hits. And they don't even have to cause damage. A hit could be 0 damage. Oh, no, actually 3 hits that cause damage, so you have to get at least 1. So you want a low aiming time, an accurate gunner, get the gunner that has dead eye or dead shot or whatever it's called, because it increases the chance. I'm going to show you again what it is. Increase the chance of causing damage to internal modules. It's a perk. Deadeye. You want that. That will help you with this mission. And you should have it for all your gunners anyway, but it has to be at 100% before you can use it. If you're at 79% on one skill, you wait till it gets to 100, and then you use reset, and you pick Deadeye first and Camo second. And also go after easy targets. Destroy an enemy light tank. When the game begins, you look at the top and you look for those little diamonds. If there's no diamonds, you're not going to be able to destroy a light tank. If there's lots of them, you will. If you're having trouble finding light tanks or destroying light tanks, get a low-tier SPG unit, like a Tier 4. Go buy a Tier 4 SPG. You're going to be up against more enemy light tanks in the lower-tier games. The higher-tier games, you might not get any, or you might only get one. And you have to destroy it, obviously. Destroy a track of an enemy vehicle. Use, I think, high explosive rounds. People have a lot of okay. You try using, yeah, this is the one that people had problems with. I destroyed track after track after track after track, and the mission never completed. And this part, a vehicle destroyed by your allies before it repairs its track is counted. Nobody knows what that means. It's like gibberish. It's not English. So nobody knew how to do it. And what people were saying, if you keep on tracking and your allies are even destroying it and it's not winning, what they're doing is they're canceling the mission and restarting it, and it solves the problem. And it worked for me. I canceled the mission, I restarted it, and then suddenly I had a game where I won after many games of tracking and having allies destroy it and nothing happening. So there's something wrong with this particular mission. Use high explosive rounds. Do whatever you got to do. Aim for the tracks is another method. with regular rounds. Destroy 2 enemy vehicles of the same tier or higher. Use your premium ammunition. Look for easy targets. Destroy an enemy tank destroyer. Obviously, look for tank destroyers. They're going to be those little triangles. It's going to be easier when you see those games that have lots of triangles on the map. Lots of triangles up on the top or on the side. And keep an eye as they start to disappear. If you see them on the map, you got to hunt them down. Even if you got to reposition on the map, do it. It will make you complete the mission. You might need a faster SPG. Cause 1,000 hit points of damage to heavy tanks. Use the highest tier SPG with the gun that causes the most damage. Excuse me. As you can see, I only have one SPG right now because I sold my others. The one that does the most damage is the gun that I have up here at the top, and this other one here kind of in the middle. The rest of them only do 55. So make sure you have the gun that does the most damage. Usually it's going to be a higher tiers do more damage. So start with your higher tier SPGs and work your way down. You only have to cause 1,000 hit points of damage. That signifies use a higher tier gun, higher tier tank. And look for the games with the 3 stripes. If there's only a couple, 1 or 2 heavy tanks, it's going to be difficult. But if you get a game with 7 or 8 of them, that's going to be your game to go and cause that damage. Lead them till you hit them. Damage a vehicle that is moving at least 10 kilometers. You want a tank with a fast aiming time. So look at all your guns and find the one that has that low aiming time, such as this one, 1.3 aiming time. And also look at things like the dispersion. And here's another trick you want to look at. You'll see over here, where is it? Damage. You'll see on this high explosive it says burst radius. And it says 1.06 meters. The burst radius means that you can hit next to the tank, and if that tank is within 1.06 meters, that tank can get damaged. And if it's outside of the 1.06 meters, it won't. So you might have a better chance damaging a moving vehicle with a high explosive round that has a burst radius. Just land it as close as you can and increase your chance. So look for tanks with high explosive rounds. You don't have to hit the tank exactly. Also look for choke points where the tanks have to move in a straight line. Look for roads that they drive on. You know they're going to continue driving on the road or going between buildings. If they zigzag all over the place, you'll see me zigzagging on a lot of my videos. It might be a little bit more difficult. Also, go after the heavy tanks. You only have to damage it. Forget about the light tanks and the fast tanks. Look for the slow tanks and keep on targeting them. They'll probably almost always move a minimum of 10 kilometers per hour. Look at the Togs and the Tortoises and the T-95s. Find slow lumbering tanks and just keep hitting them. You only have to damage it. Destroy an enemy SPG. That should be pretty easy. If you play SPG, you'll know when those opportunities are there. Keep your eye on that map. Since you're playing SPG, there's a good chance that there will be an enemy SPG. And look for the squares on your map, and when they pop up, you go and you nail them. Cause damage to 2 enemy vehicles with 1 shot. You want to use those high explosive rounds that have the burst radius. Over here you see it says splash damage from an HE blast can destroy several targets simultaneously if they are positioned close together. It's difficult to find tanks close together. Maybe you'll find it once out of every 3 or 4 games, or once out of every 5 games. Use high explosive rounds with the biggest burst radius you can get. Go through all your guns and all your ammo for your SPGs. Find out which one has the largest burst radius with a high explosive round, and that will give you more opportunities to hit tanks. The other thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to follow tanks to complete this mission. Find tanks that stay close together and only shoot when they're close together. You might not be able to play it as a regular game. Be among the top 3 by damage caused. Find your guns that cause the most damage. And penetration. You might want to use premium rounds. Join a battle as a platoon. Cause 20% of the total damage. Make sure your platoon has the best guns. Try to get 3 SPGs in your platoon. A third SPG increases the chance that you do more damage for the team. Join a battle of a platoon with light tanks. Cause at least 2,000 HP of damage. Okay, the light tanks don't have to do anything. They just have to be in the platoon. So, join the battle. I don't know if you have to do... I think you have to do the 2,000. It doesn't say that the platoon does 2,000. So you could get a platoon. The one light tank could die immediately. As long as you cause the 2,000 hit points, you're fine. But the light tank ideally will spot other tanks for you. Finally, be among the top 3 by experience earned and damage. Cause at least 2,000 hit points of damage. If you want to cause more damage, you need a gun that causes more damage. It's going to be a higher tier gun or a higher tier tank. Probably look at the higher tier guns. They cause more damage. And you might want to use the premium rounds, the gold rounds, in order to do it. Okay, so those are my tips on how to complete this mission. Second of all, you can go back. You see how it says completed with honors, and this one says completed? You can go back, and where it says improve result, over here where it says started, you would cancel it. And you go to a previous completed mission, improve result. And then try to do the first, destroy enemy vehicle same tier, and cause 1,000 hit points of damage, and you will get your secondary condition, that 40,000 silver. So if you don't have, once you get to the platoon area, if you don't have people to platoon with, then go back and work on some of these other missions that you didn't complete with honors, so you can at least get that silver. And then when you join a platoon, make sure you switch back to the platoon. And then just keep on doing those. You keep on doing the ones that are completed without honors to get that cash. And then at some point what will happen is there will be a link to claim. It's called the claim link. You see where it says claim reward? I don't have one yet because I haven't finished it. But once you finish everything and you complete all those missions and you've done the ones with honors and without honors a second time to improve result, and once you're happy, you claim your reward and you get your vehicle, which in this case is the Stug 4. Okay, if you have any questions, please post them below.